my channel, or welcome if you're new. I'm Rachel, and this is what's for dinner at our house. It's New Year's Eve, and I'm getting ready to put a cabbage casserole together because you have to have something green that represents money coming into the new year, right? So Bill wanted cabbage rolls, but my cabbage was cut in half, and so I just decided to cut it up into shreds and just kind of mix together a casserole, kind of like an unstuffed cabbage roll casserole. So I have some onions. I'm going to use up this pico de gallo because I don't want it to go bad. Why waste it? I have about a half a cup of rice that I'm going to put in this casserole. And back here I have a can of tomato sauce. And then over here on the back burner, I am cooking up some ground beef. Let me give that a stir a couple of times so it can get browned up all over, and then I'm gonna drain it, and then I'll add that as well, and then we're just gonna season it up real good with like some garlic powder, onion powder, and some salt and pepper. And then I'm just gonna make some cornbread to go along with it, because you gotta have cornbread on New Year's Day too. What traditions or food superstitions do you have that go along with New Year's? Let me know. There are so many. It's so hard to just pick one or two and go with it, but this is what we're doing this year. I just used a slotted spoon and drained that ground beef and put it into my casserole dish. I had a little bit of smoked sausage left over from last week, so I put that in as well. And I'm using about a half a cup of uncooked rice. I just sprinkled that in as well and then added some chopped up onions. Next, I poured in a can of tomato sauce. Then I had this container of pico de gallo that we had the week before on taco night, so I'm just using that as well. Then I just got all of those ingredients stirred in good. Next, I came back with some seasoning. This is the house seasoning that I made up in a bigger batch. It's just some onion powder, garlic powder, salt, and pepper. And then I started adding my shredded cabbage into the casserole dish as well. And I always regret the size of the dish that I pick out when I start mixing everything together, because it's never the right size. But I do make it work just like always. And then, because we're going to need some liquid to make sure that all of that uncooked rice gets cooked, I added a can of water to this dish. I'm also just coming back and making sure that there's some salt and pepper on that cabbage too, because you don't want to have bland cabbage. Well, I don't anyway. Now that all the ingredients are mixed together in my casserole dish, I'm just going to cover it with some foil really tight to keep all of that steam inside, because that's what's going to cook that rice. And you want to make sure that you have enough liquid in there. Let's see. As you can see, I added that tomato sauce and some water, so that that's all going to cook up, and it's going to cook this cabbage down and the rice that I added. So I'm going to cook this in the oven on 350 for about an hour. And of course, I will check it along the way just to make sure that it's not drying out, or if it looks like that rice is getting overcooked, I'll just give it a pull out of the oven and we'll call it done. We always have cornbread on New Year's Day. The yellow color represents gold and coins, and so the circular shape of the cornbread also kind of represents money. So I decided to do some muffins, which look like little coins and represent prosperity and wealth in the new year. It's just a little fun thing that we do. So this is just some Jiffy cornbread that I mixed up, and I'm making some really big corn muffins. And then because the kids don't like cabbage, I did make some tater tots and some Hormel chili, and they are just having some loaded tater tots. Just put some chili on top of those tots, some cheese, some sour cream, and some bacon bits. But here is that finished cabbage roll casserole. It does take quite a while for this to cook. You do want to make sure you have a tight seal with your foil on this dish so that you get all of that rice cooked up. You don't want to have crunchy rice. But this really was a delicious meal for New Year's and a whole lot easier to make than traditional cabbage rolls. On Monday, we had venison steaks with loaded twice-baked potatoes. Our son brought us over some venison the night before, so I am just getting the steak. I started by just putting a little bit of olive oil down in my dish. And venison steak is very, very lean, so I like to add a little bit of oil. I have not made venison steak in a long, long time, and to be honest, I didn't even know if I liked it, but I want to let you know that these steaks were so tender and they just were like butter in your mouth, and they were so flavorful. So next I just sprinkled on some meat tenderizer and then a little bit more oil right on top of the steaks. Next I came in with some Worcestershire sauce and just sprinkled that right on top. And then I hit it with some garlic powder. And I got a really good sale on onions, so I bought 2 big bags of them, and I've just been chopping them up and keeping them chopped in my refrigerator. So those are going in too. And then I just put the lid on my marinating dish. And then next I just cleaned up some potatoes, poked some holes, and then I'm just spraying them with some nonstick cooking spray. I was out of foil, so these potatoes are going into the oven all naked. And I apologize, I was trying to hold my camera and cook at the same time, so you do see part of my hand in that last clip. And then to get these steaks cooked up, this was hours later, by the way, I just put them in some olive oil in a frying pan and then just let them cook. And then these potatoes had been started earlier than the steaks, obviously, because the steaks cook up really quick. So all I'm doing is just holding my hot potato with a fork and then slicing off the very top of the potato just to form like a little canoe. Then once I got the top sliced off of each potato, I just got busy scooping out the middle, leaving a little bit along the edge of the potato, just to form like a little bowl. To make the filling, I just added some sour cream, some butter, some salt and pepper, and then just gave it all a mash. I happen to like lumps in my potatoes, so that's why I'm using a hand masher. You could also use an electric mixer if you wanted to, and of course I got the smallest bowl I could possibly find. But anyway, next I added some bacon bits and some shredded sharp cheddar cheese, mixed it all together, and then that filling is just going back into these potatoes. Before I pop these back in the oven, I just put some shredded cheese and some bacon bits on top. And I put them back in the oven on 400, just keeping an eye on them so they don't burn and that cheese got nice and melty. And then I knew that they were ready to eat. I had cooked those steaks for a couple minutes on each side and then took my potatoes out. We heated up some corn to go along with it, and this is what a finished plate looked like. This was some of the most tender steak I've ever eaten. I was still feeling a little under the weather at the beginning of the week, so decided to take the day off from cooking, and everyone just kind of did what they wanted. By the middle of the week, I'm always ready for comfort food, and usually for me that means breakfast for dinner. And I've been on a mission to just kind of use what we have on hand and stay out of the grocery store and kind of cut back on our spending as much as possible. Recently, we won half a pig, so we have plenty of bacon and sausage in our house. And we just fried up some potatoes and onions. The plan was to have smothered fried potatoes with that sausage gravy, but we were out of milk, so I found myself making do with some of this peppered gravy. I just went looking through my pantry and found that I had a couple packs of gravy in there, so I just whisked them up together like the package called for and then added that to my cooked sausage. And we just cooked up some scrambled eggs, and then this is how our breakfast for dinner turned out. It was so comforting and warm and delicious. Now, because my husband was a little overzealous when he was peeling and slicing potatoes with the mandolin, we had tons of sliced potatoes left over that night. So this is still the same night, and I am determined not to waste these potatoes, and I had no baggies or Tupperware to save them in, so I just put them in the crock pot with some chicken that was in our freezer. It was just some leftover chicken breasts that we didn't use the week before, so I'm just putting those in the crock pot right after dinner so that they can cook up. I added a can of cream of mushroom soup and some peas and some onions. Wasn't really quite sure at the time what I was doing with this, but I wanted to make sure that it was cooked before I saved it. That way I would have dinner for the next day. I just seasoned it up with some house seasoning, put the lid on, and let it go. The next day, I just took the bag out of the refrigerator and then put it back in the crock pot and let it finish warming up all the way through. And then, yeah, this is really hot, so I carefully just transferred it into a casserole dish. I had decided that this would be chicken pot pie. Kind of had that in mind in the beginning, but wasn't really sure. So this chicken is really tender. I could have just shredded it with forks or whatever, but I just used my scissors, got it cut up into chunks, and then spread the filling into my casserole dish. And I was going to do like the Cheddar Bay biscuit dough on top, but decided that was too much work. So I just unrolled a couple of just one pack of crescent dough that was already in my fridge, had that on hand already. And this was a super quick and easy way to make a pot pie. And I did forget to get a picture of a plate, so I ran down and got a picture of the leftovers before they got put away. And we have just been having a very rainy winter here in Michigan. And so I just wanted to get home from work and have dinner done quickly, have it done and over with. So all I'm doing here is popping some hot dogs and some Eckrich grillers into a baking dish, and then I'm just going to pour some barbecue sauce over top. I had this partial bottle of barbecue sauce just kind of lurking in the fridge, so it's going to get used up tonight. And then we always seem to have hot dogs in our refrigerator or freezer, so that's an easy go-to and grab. And then when I did my very last grocery haul, I had picked up some of these convenience items like tater tots and french fries just to have them in the freezer, so that's what we're using up. And of course, we always have our frozen broccoli in our freezer stash as well, so I just put everything on baking dishes and just popped it in the oven, and that was the simplest dinner. I like to do what I call fun food on Fridays, and since we're trying to eat at home more, this was a perfect meal for Friday. But hey, let's not forget game day food. And I'm keeping it as simple as possible. I just got out a package of bacon from that pig that we now have in our freezer, and I'm just going to heat up some mozzarella sticks that we also had in our freezer. And then I had some of these English muffins. I got a huge bag of them, and there's no way that I could eat them that fast, so I'm making mini pizzas with them. And I think that English muffins can take on a dry and flavorless texture if you don't add flavor to them. So I am just buttering them and adding some garlic powder, and I pop them in the oven for just a couple of minutes to get them kind of browned up and kind of like garlic bread. And then I added just some Great Value pizza sauce to each muffin, and then I'm just going to put our toppings on after that. And this is just a fun and easy way to use up what you have in your fridge and make kind of like an appetizer type meal. And of course you can add any toppings that you want. This is just kind of what we wanted and what we had on hand. And because I was also making BLT sandwiches, I just wanted to keep these little pizzas on the simple side. I bought these English muffins a while back so that I could make egg and ham and cheese breakfast sandwiches to take to work. I am really trying to stop ordering food when I'm at work and trying to do more lunches that I can take with me and just pop in the microwave and heat up. And I do plan on showing more of how we are going to be eating at home and doing more pantry challenges. And next I'm just showing how I'm getting our BLT sandwiches assembled, just with some mayo, some lettuce, and some Roma tomatoes, and then just put a couple slices of that bacon right on top. I know this combination may seem a little random, but it was a Saturday and I did have to work this day, which is really uncommon. But I still wanted to keep it fun and have a kind of weekend type of feel. And that's our first official week of What's for Dinners in January 2023. And we feel really fortunate that we were gifted some venison and also won some pork for our freezer. It definitely gives us lots of options for cooking at home. I look forward to bringing you more videos like this one. If you enjoyed it, please hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.